I'm Rupesh Kumar, and today we'll solve some problems related to arrays in this session. And yeah, so let's wait for a few more minutes so that else can join, and then we'll start the session. Hi everyone, am I audible? Please confirm. Great. So let's start this session. So welcome to this online tutorial session on problem solving through programming in C. I'm Rupesh Kumar. I take these sessions every Fridays, 6 to 8 p.m. And in this session, I have some questions for you guys. I have prepared some questions for you guys, and I will be solving those questions with you guys in this session. Fine. If you face any difficulties, please type in the chat box. Fine. So this is how you. So if you face any difficulties, you can type in the chat box and ask me the queries. The way will be hold. The way you will. This is the only way you can communicate with me. And yeah, that's it. At any instant you feel that the text is not visible on the screen, or my screen is frozen, or you cannot I am not audible, then you can ask me by typing in the chat box. So yeah, is my screen visible? I have shared some document that says problem solving through programming in C, and some problem statements are there. Everyone, if you face any difficulties, tell me at the moment you face it. Start facing it. Fine. Hmm. So yeah, in this week you all saw some lectures on arrays. So arrays are what are arrays? So basically, so yeah. Mm, Arrays dot C. Ah, so my screen is visible. Someone is saying screen is not visible. Please confirm again. My screen should be visible. You should be able to see a program. Fine. So what are arrays? Arrays are the structures that hold data of the same type in contiguous memory locations. So the question is, why should we use arrays? Why do we need arrays? So this is the basic problem, why we need arrays. Fine. Okay, so why do we need arrays? So everyone, are you familiar with the string, with strings? What are strings? Strings are collection of characters. Fine. For example, if I'm saying my name Rupesh is a string, this is basically a collection of characters R, comma U, comma P, comma E, comma S, comma H. Fine. Can you see any string like this? Everyone? Am I audible? Hello, am I audible? So no one is responding. I'm not sure if I'm audible or not. Okay, great. So yeah, so how can you store strings in a C program? You can store them as a a collection of characters. So for example, this string Rupesh is essentially a union of all these characters RUPESH in a given order. Fine. So how to store such elements? We can data. We can use arrays. Basically, array of characters. Characters is called a string. So basically, this is why this is of a very basic example where we need arrays. Why do we need array? We need arrays to store character data, multiple characters data in a sequence so that a string can be formed. Fine. How to create an array? You define the data type. So basically, type name, then array name, whatever name you want to give. Then you need to specify this opening and closing brackets that tell us that the array is there, and then give it the value. Fine. So, for example, I can say char name is to R U P E S H. Fine. So this is how I can declare an array in C. Fine, everyone. Now, are you familiar with arrays? Do you have any doubts with arrays? So this is a syntax. This is how you declare arrays in C. You type in the type name, then array name, and then opening closing square brackets, and then array value. So for so what does this opening closing bracket tells? It tells the compiler that this is an array data structure. You can also pass the length of the data, length of the elements that you are going to store in this array. For example, there are six elements in this character array. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts related to arrays? I hope you all have seen the video lectures related to arrays. So I guess no one has any doubt. Can we use double quotes inside the array? So basically you do you know the difference between string and a character? So whenever we talk about double quotes are used to store strings, whereas single quotes are used to store characters. Fine. So it depends, like they both have different utilities. So here is a character array. So a character can only be represented using single quotes inside the single quotes instance. So you have to using this single quote is important. Yeah, strings are if you are storing strings. So for example, if I could try to create a string out of this character array, it will append backslash n at the end. Fine. So let's start with the problems for today's session. Is the text visible? Anyone? Please confirm. Is the text visible? Fine. So what is an array in C? We already saw the definition. Array is a collection of similar data elements with the same data type. Fine. It's not a built-in function that performs mathematical calculation. It's not a keyword to declare variables. And it's also not a data type that can use to store characters only. It can be used to store any data type you want. So the correct answer is fine. So what is the index of first element in an array? So everyone, are you familiar with the concept of indexes? So I hope every one of you is familiar with indexes. So for example, I have some integer array. So let me go here. Fine. So what are indexes? Index is used to access arrays. Fine. So for example, we have this name array that contains 6 characters. Let's say if I want to access the character at character R, how can I access this character? So I can get the char first letter. So I can simply use the correct array name, which is name, variable name, and then the square bracket. Within the square bracket, I have to pass an integer variable index. Fine. And now, since I'm talking about the first letter, should it be one? Everyone? So someone is saying it should be zero. So why I'm saying that first letter? So yeah, what I'm saying, I want to extract the character value R into the variable first letter. And this is how I can do this: name followed by these square brackets that are used for accessing specific index elements in the array, and then pass in an integer index as in that box. Fine. Now I am saying the first character should be one. No, this is how maths works. But in computer programming, this is zero. So this has to be zero here. So C, character array indices start from zero. In C, array indices start from zero. Fine, everyone. So this is zero. So now let's say, what about name at one? This is basically U. Similarly, what about name at index 5, which is H? Fine, everyone. So this is how you use indexes in arrays. So what is the index of the first element in the array? Anyone? Now the answer is straightforward. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts? For what for? For loop? What for loop? Okay, I guess no one has any doubts. So let's move on to the next question. Which loop is commonly used to iterate through all the elements in an array? Anyone? It's it is not of a that much of a problem statement. It's like what is the convention that everyone uses, most of the people use. So basically most of the people use for loop for iterating all the elements, although all other loops can be used for accessing the elements. Array for loop is used most is most widely used. So there is one thing, there is no loop known as switch loop. So yeah, this is except the switch loop. While loop and do while loop can be used for doing this. Fine. So let's move on to the next question. How can you find the sum of all elements in an 1D array ARR with 5 elements using loop in C? Hello, am I audible? Anyone please confirm because you guys are not answering. Great. So yeah. So now I am given an array and I want to sum of all the elements in an array ARR with 5 elements using loop in C. Fine. So so assume that the variable sum is assigned the value 0. Fine, everyone. So let's see. So let's say we have an array of 5 elements and I want to compute the sum of those elements. So how I can do this? I want to access elements by index in the array and add them to the variable sum. Fine. This is what I want to do. So how I can do it? So we already know that we can use indexes to add the values. So we can say sum equals to, let's say sum was initialized to 0, sum equals to sum plus ARR at 0. Now sum contains the value ARR at 0. So I can say sum equals to sum. So I can simply add up all these. No. 1 plus ARR 2, index plus ARR at 3, ARR at 4. Fine. So we can do this. This is fine if the number of elements in the array is small. So this works if the elements in the array small. What happens if the number of was 100? So what would you do? Anyone? Do you know what is the answer? So now let's say if the element has 100, array had 700 integer values and you wanted to add them up. Would you write it like this? Sum equals to error at 0 plus error at 1 plus error at 2 up to error at 99? No. So what is the better way? The better way is using loop. So in that case, we would use loop. Fine. So this is what problem asks you. How can you find the sum of all elements in 1D array ARR with 5 elements using loop in C? Using loop. So pay attention to this. You have to use a loop in C. And then assume that the variable sum is assigned the value 0. So option 1, this is straightforward. It is not using any loop. So this is incorrect. So option 2, it says sum equals to ARR at 5. So first of all, this is absolutely incorrect. It will not give us to the it does not give us the sum that we need. Let's go to option C. For int1 if I equals to 0, I is less than equals to 5, I plus plus sum plus equals to error at I. Let's expand this and let's see what is happening. Hmm. Let's declare our array. Int error of 5 elements equals to positive integers at up to 5. Fine. So let's start. So first way is we have the variable sum here. So the easiest way is sum equals to ARR at 0 plus ARR at 1 plus ARR at 2 plus ARR at 3 ARR at 4. So this will give us the result. Sum of all the there is percentage d backslash n comma sum. Fine. Set. So let's run this program and see what is the output. So you can see it says the sum of all elements in the array is 15. Everyone, can you see this? And now we can cross verify this also. So you will see that the sum of all the integers up to 1 to n is n into n plus 1 by 2. So it's 5 into 6 by 2, which is 15. So this is correct. So yeah. Now we need to use loop. We need to use loops. So let's get to option C, which is for int I equals to I less than equals to 5, I plus plus sum plus equals to error at I. So let's start with a loop. So let again declare sum equals to 0. 0 is less than equals to 5, I plus plus. Fine. And then sum plus equals to error at I. Then again, array using for loop is. So technically they should give us the same result. Fine. So let us see what happens. So everyone, you should be familiar with this plus equals to operator. It essentially means sum equals to sum plus ARR at I. Fine. So why I'm doing this, why I'm trying to write here sum equals to sum plus ARR at I. So just look at like this. For example, when I was 0, sum was 0. Now when I becomes sum was 0 and the value of sum becomes plus ARR at 0, which is equals to 1. Now when I becomes 1, sum becomes sum plus sum was 1. Now sum became 1 plus ARR at 1. When I becomes 2, then sum becomes 1. So what is ARR at 1? ARR at 1 is 2 basically. So it becomes 3. So sum becomes sum plus ARR at 2, which is 3. So it becomes 6. And when I, and so on. And so it goes on. And you get sum equals to 15. So that's the way I am using this repeating repetitive statement sum equals to sum plus ARR at I. So basically, someone of you might have doubts like why I'm adding using this statement sum equals to sum plus ARR at 5 ARR at I. So theoretically this should give the correct result. So let's run this. Fine. Great. So, yeah. So now, so let's repeat these statements until I get sum 5. So I equals to 3, then sum becomes 6 plus ARR at 3. What is ARR at 3? That is 6 plus 4, which is 10. Now I becomes 4, then sum becomes sum plus. So 10 plus ARR at 4, which is 5. 10 plus 5, which is 15. Fine. So sum becomes 15 when I becomes 4. So there is one thing that you need to pay attention in this program is, so when you look here, there is a statement for I equals to 1, 0, I is less than equals to 5. What does this mean? This means this loop runs till I equals to 5. So it runs 6 times. But if we look at the logic that we used while writing this loop is, I should go from 0 to 4. And since there is a condition I is less than equals to 5 and you have to increment I every time until I reaches 5. So I should only go to 4. I should not go to value 5. But when you run this program, when you compile this program, you get the correct result. This is just a coincidence that you are getting correct result here. Now let's say instead of 5 there was 50 here, but the array only contains 5 elements. Fine. Let's say if there was 50 here and the array only contains 5 elements that we have declared, then you will see you get some garbage strange value, which is a negative number. Everyone, can you see this? Hello? Am I audible? Can you see this? Can you observe this strange value when you set n is less than equals to 50? So yeah, so basically what happens in C is you create an array of a fixed size, you declare assign the values to the array elements. But what happens is C compiler does not check for out of index value references by default. Fine. So what is happening in this case is it is referring to values out of bound. So which it is referring to memory locations which are in which no data has been allocated. No memory has been allocated. For example, so ah, so let's say this is how your memory looks like. Fine. Oh, these are memory locations. So let's start with 1, then 5, then 9, and so on, right? So 4 bytes each. 4 bytes each. Okay. Now, let's say I declare the variable ARR. So 0, 1. So instead of directly entering the memory address locations, I will be using in array indices. Fine. So let's say this is location. So let's type location here. How I'm supposed to use this? Hmm. So let's say these are the memory locations. Yeah. Yeah. Fine. So this is, let's say, 1000, and the next, then, yeah, this is 1000. Then you have 1008, 1004, and then memory location 1008. Then you have location 1012, and so on. Fine. So these are the memory locations. Now let's say your array at 0 is stored here. So let us create our array here. This is our array, and we have 5 values here. Fine. So we have these 5 values, and the values are stored here. So first one. So we all know that the memories are contiguous memory locations. So these values are stored in this contiguous memory locations. Fine. So these are the values we are dealing with. Fine. So this was 1, 2 was stored here, 3 was stored here, 4 was stored here, and 5 was stored here. Fine. But you see the memory is big, like, yeah, no. Now you have declared an array, and you have assigned 5 values in these memory locations using that. Now there will be the other memory blocks also. Fine. That will be containing some values. So there is a possibility these blocks were empty, or they had some garbage values. Fine. So let's say we have some garbage here. Garbage. So we have some garbage value here. Fine. Now what was happening when when the program said I want to access the value at ARR at 0, ARR at 0, what it was doing, it was fetching the value. So at the memory location at the beginning. So basically ARR at 0 starts with at the memory location 1000. So it started at the memory location 1000. Fine. So this means access the memory location 1000, which is here. Now, let's say each element contains 4 bytes, is stored in a memory location of contiguous memory location of 4 bytes. Now, when we talk about array at 1, it is basically 1000 plus 4. So it starts here. So it accesses this value, which is 2. Fine. This is what you get. Now, similarly, when I keep iterating, so it 2 will get you to 1008 and return the value 3. Similarly, 3 will get you to 1012, return the value 4, and then 4 will get you to the value memory location 1016 here, 1016 here, and it will give you value 5. Fine. So it is basically 1, 2, this is a 3, 4, 5. But after that, when you are trying to access a value at location 5, so there is no way for the C compiler where it checks that no, you had only declared values till 4 indices. Only 5 contiguous memory locations were used up. So C compiler does not know that, neither does it check for it. Fine. So when you try to access the array element and value 5, it goes to the next for contiguous memory location, which is 1020 here. So 1020 here. And let's say 0 was stored here. So what it would have written? It would have written 0. That is what we saw. Now, let's say we are at memory location 50 here. So what would be 50 here? Like 4 into 49. So I think 1000. It starts with 1000 plus 4 into. So each block is of size 4, and we have to cross 49 blocks to reach the 50th block. So let's say we reach here for 48. Yeah, this is correct. So this is memory location ARR at 50. So when you try to access at 50, so this is basically, so when you say I want to access the value ARR at 49, fine. So it will lead you at this memory location, fine. So it will point here. Now let's say there are some garbage values stored here. What is garbage value? Value that is not useful. So what is garbage? Garbage is something that we can't use. So garbage values are useless values. Fine. Garbage. So there is some garbage value stored here. So this is the garbage value we are talking about. Now when you add this up, this garbage value to this sum, what you will get? You will get 15 plus some random value. So what is garbage? It's just random value. Fine. So you get some random value. So that is what we were observing. So this is what was happening actually. Why the compiler was not giving any error. This is because it just accesses this memory location, returns the value stored in that memory location. And this memory location might contain some garbage value, which is some random value. So the sum was becoming 15 plus some random value. Fine. So that's why we can see this some garbage random value minus 788760046. Fine, everyone. Is my screen visible? Hello. Is my screen visible? Fine. Can you see this code page where I opened up my code? Or you are stuck? So can you see this program where I am adding up to 50 elements? Fine. Yeah. So that's why the compiler is not giving any error here, but still the value is some random value. Fine. So let's go back to our problem. So this question number C runs loop up to 5. So when I becomes equals to 5. So this is not correct. Correct. Might result in garbage values. And this is the correct answer. Option D. Why? Because it runs only till 4. So as a C++ programmer, you have to be very careful for while using arrays. You have to be careful with the array bounds. Fine. Because it will not give you any error or errors, and the program will run smoothly, and you will be getting some garbage or random values. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts in this program, with this problem? So option A is not wrong. It will also give the same result. But the question says you have to use loop. Fine. So Vendu, option A is also correct. But the questions ask you to choose an option that uses loop. Yeah. Anyone else? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. So someone is saying I have to explain the previous question once again. So yeah, question number 4. So yeah, the question says, how can you find the sum of all the elements in 1D array ARR with 5 elements? Fine. So let's again solve this problem. So you have to use loop for adding 5 elements, all the 5 elements in 1D. Acha, question number 3. Yeah. Which loop is commonly used to iterate through all elements of an array in C? For loop, while loop, do while loop, or switch loop? So basically, the question is saying what is commonly used or most widely used. So most widely we use the for loop for accessing all the elements in an array, and you can also use while and do while loop. But the most widely and commonly used is the for loop. It's just a convention that everyone follows. Fine. Dhanlakshmi, is this clear? Great. Anyone else? Do you have any doubts? Fine. I guess no one has any doubts. Let's move on to the next question. What is the right way to initialize an array in C? So look at these. So int error and then opening and closing brackets, and then we have defined the array elements. So this is incorrect. Fine. So this is incorrect because you cannot use this curly braces to define the length of the array. Then second option says int error in the square brackets you have value 5, which says the array has value element 5 elements. Then you have 5 values here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, option B is correct. Okay. Option B. Then option C is again incorrect because you are using curly brackets to define the size of the array. And option D is also correct. So basically, this is used to this is how option D is used the way how we declare functions in C. So this is incorrect. Fine. You can't use small brackets to define an array. Fine. So let's move on to the next question. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. Otherwise, I can start with the next question. Great. So let's move on to the next question. No one has any doubts. So an integer array with 10 elements is declared in a C program, assuming that the first byte in the array is at location 1000. What would be the array of what is the address of the eighth element? Consider each element takes up 4 bytes. Fine. So let's solve this problem. So let's look at this. Mhm. Yeah. So we said we have our memory. So we have this memory. Okay, we have this main memory, program memory, where all the immediate variables are stored. And the memory location starts with the memory address 1000. Fine. Then the question says we have created an integer array with 10 elements. Each one occupies 4 bytes. And first is at memory location 1000. And we all know that the memory locations are contiguous, where the arrays are stored in contiguous memory locations. So this is a 1000. So second element will be at stored at 1004. So 1000 plus 4. Then the third will be stored at at the memory address starting with 1008. So why 1000 here? 1000 means the memory locations 1000 plus 1, 2, 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So 1000, 1003. These four byte locations are storing the element 0. Then starting out from 1004 to 1007, the first one is stored and so on. So now we want to find where the eighth element will be stored. So you can see that before 8 we had already stored 7 elements. No, so this index would be 7 here, right? But this is the eighth element. So this is A R R at 7. Sorry. So this is eighth element. Eighth element. Fine. So this is eighth element. So before this, we have already stored seven elements, each occupying 4 bytes each. So they would have occupied 28 bytes on their own. Now the starting byte is 1000. So, fine. So first one starts from 1004. So 4 into 1 and 4 is 4 into 2, 28. So it should start from 1028. Fine, everyone. Do you understand this? Do you have any doubts? So it starts from the memory location 1028. Anyone? Do you have any doubts? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. How I am getting to this answer 1028. I have explained the logic. So like memories are stored, data values are stored, elements are stored in contiguous memory locations. Starting from 1000, each one occupies 4 bytes. So the eighth one will be starting from the memory location 1028. And it will be stored up to 10282 to 1031. Fine. This is the block, 4 byte block. Fine, everyone. Anyone, if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Great. So let's move on to the next question. How can we compare two arrays? So let's say I have two arrays containing same number of elements. How would you compare them? What is the use case of this problem? Why I want to compare two arrays? So let us do this. Why do we want to compare two arrays? String matching. Basically, string matching uses this. So for example, is the are the two strings same? Foo and bar. Let's compare these and then foo and foo. So yes, no, no in this case, yes in this case. Fine. So this is why we need to compare two arrays. So can we use double equals to operator? No, we can't use the comparison operator double equals to. We can use for loop. Yeah, this is correct. So yeah, this is the most widely used on way you can use for loop. Option B. Fine. You can also do this using ternary operator, I guess, but it will take a lot of, it will be very redundant code. So for loop is the most elegant way to do this. Fine. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Anyone, if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. So now we'll be solving some programming problems. So till now I had some simple problems that objective questions related to arrays. Now I have some programming problems on arrays that we'll be solving too. Fine. Meanwhile, if you have any doubts, you can type in the chat box. So if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Anyone? Do you have any doubts related to earlier problems? So let me go reiterate the problems. So option question one is pretty clear to everyone. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Yeah, this file will be shared with you guys. Don't worry. So option one is quite clear to everyone. Option two, this is also clear. We know that the index starts from zero. Then which loop is commonly used to iterate through elements of an array in C? This is for loop. It's most widely loop. Then how can you find the sum of all elements in 1D array? Using using loop in C with five elements. So there is one thing that we learned here is we need to be very careful about the array bounds. So the C compiler will not give you any error if you are trying to access some memory location that has not been initialized. So it will give you some garbage value. So please pay attention whenever you write your code. Pay attention to the array bounds. So why the index starts from zero? This is some convention that has been going on since the beginning. So yeah, that's why array bound starts from zero. So array index starts from zero. This is a convention. Fine. No, the so you can't decide whether which index the array index should start in C. It has been hard coded that the array index starts with zero. So it can't start with one. Fine. So let's move on to the next question. So how can we initialize arrays in C? So please pay attention whenever you initialize array, you need to use the square brackets to define the size and then curly braces to define the values. Fine. So this is an important convention. Then the next question says what is so we needed to compute the array memory location in which the array data has is stored. So this is pretty straightforward, simple mathematics, and you will get to the answer. And the only important thing to note here is the array elements are stored in contiguous memory locations. How can we compare two arrays? We can compare two arrays using for loop. You can't use the direct comparison operator for C arrays. Fine. So let's start with some practice problems, programming problems. So I'll be solving these problems for you guys. So write a C program in C to store the elements in an array and print them. So this is very simple problem, yet it is important. So let's do this. Hashtag include h So let's create an integer array and TRR with 5 elements and assign the values to it. Fine. And now I want to print the elements of that array. So can we do this? Anyone, please confirm the values are. Can we do something like this? Why it can't and what is the mistake here? Is this allowed? Anyone? Can we print the integer array values like this? No. Why? Because array is basically this ARR variable will essentially hold a pointer to the memory location of the starting value of that array. So what we have to do, we have to loop through all the elements in the array. The array is, so let's use for loop to access each element and print the values. 0, I less than 5. We know the array length is 5, I plus plus. Now we are paying attention to the array bounds. It should be less than 5, not less than equals to, and index starts from 0. And then let's access the array elements by index and print those values. So percentage %d, comma, then ARR at I. Fine. After printing the elements, I should simply print change the line. So yeah. Fine, everyone. Is this program clear to you all? So this is how I can declare an integer value array and array containing integer values and print all the elements using C in C. So let's compile and run this program. So gcc q8.c. Then you can see the array is 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. Fine, everyone. Do you have any doubts in this program? If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Fine. So I guess no one has any doubts. So let's move on to the next question. Write a C program to count the frequency of each element in an array. So everyone, do you understand the idea of frequency from statistics? The number of times an elements is present in. For example, if my array looks like this, so all the elements have frequency 1. Fine, everyone? All elements have frequency 1. So now let's say if our array has these values 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 1. So 1 has frequency 3. All others have frequency 1. Fine. So I hope every one of you is familiar with the concept of frequency. Fine. So now we have to write a program in C to count the frequency of each element of an array. So how can we do this? Anyone? Do you have any ideas? Would you like to help me out with this? Anyone? Am I audible? Yeah, so anyone, can you help me out with this problem? So can you, okay. So I guess no one is answering. So let me solve this problem for you. Am I audible? Can you just confirm once? Yeah. So how can we do this? Let's see. Sorry. Hmm, 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 hmm. So for solving this problem, we need to extract set of the set containing the array elements. So what will be the set? Set here would be 1, 2, and 3. So what is the definition of a set? We all know. So basically non-redundant elements. Fine. So 1, 2, 3. We need to get the set containing these array elements. And then we can count the number of times they were occurring in the list. Fine. Sorry. So let's see how we can do this. So let's say we have 5 elements. 3. Fine. And we want to extract the set of these elements. So what is the easiest way? Assume that the array contains array elements or small numbers. Fine. Then find the element with minimum value in the sorry. So find so this is for integer arrays. For this problem is for integer arrays. So find the element with the maximum value in the array. Positive integer values. Then only you can use this. The trick that I'm using right now. Now create another array with the size of maximum element plus 1, the index values in this array correspond to set containing all the synth original. Fine, everyone, you get the idea why this works? Fine. So let's try to find a maximum value, int max, and then assign the value max equals to r at 0. So this itself is another problem, finding the maximum value present in an array. So we start with the maximum value, declaring an integer value maximum and assigning the value at the starting, and the taking the value in the that starting value in the array and assigning it to the variable max. Now what you do? You iterate through all the elements in the array. Fine. So I have already taken the first value. So let me start from the second value. Now if max is greater than ARR at I, then max equals to ARR at I. Fine. So I'm just extracting the maximum value. So let's start with max equals to 0 here. Yeah. Now let's declare the create the frequency array with the value of max here. Fine. Now iterate through the original array and set the first set the frequency value to 0, frequency array values to 0. So this is max plus 1. So let us set the value frequencies to 0. Now iterate through the original array and just add up the value is array at I, then frequency at I plus plus. That's it. This is how you get the frequencies of all the array elements. Now simply print the values. Frequency of the array and is \n loop through the array elements to print the value. And simply print element, comma, frequency, comma. Fine. This is basically element is I and the frequency is frequency at I. Fine. So now we have done this program. Anyone, do you have any doubts with this program? It was a pretty much involved problem. So do you have any doubts? Am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Please confirm. Someone please confirm. Yeah, so is this program clear? Do you have any doubts? So anyone, do you have any doubts? Fourth line. So the way I'm solving this problem is, let me just give a flow chart for this program. Yeah. Fine. Hmm. Fine. So you can see the program output is correct. So one, the frequency is 2. For the value 2, frequency is 2. And for the value 3, frequency is 1. Fine, everyone? So just a minute, guys. So so yeah, sorry guys, there was some issue. Huh. So is this clear? So what are the doubts, anyone? So let me just give you another overview and then you will be able to understand this problem. So now we are given some array. So right. So we have some array. Okay. And we want the frequency of all the elements in the array. So the first thing we do is we take the max element in the array. So what is maximum value? Let's say 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. So what is max? Max equals to 4. How to extract max? Just start from a variable. So just assign the value max equals to the starting value, which is 1 here, and then iterate array, iterate the array. What you have to do? If max is less than array at I, you get the max value. Max equals to array at I. Fine, everyone. Is this clear? How do you compute max value? So start with max 1, max with ARR at 1. So basically array at the first location, array the value stored in the array at the first location, and then loop through the array, repeat through the array elements, loop array elements. And for each element, if max is less than the array element, assign the value max equals to the value of the array element. Now, what we have to do? Second thing, you have to create an array with of size max plus 1, where the index of the array will define the frequency of that index in the list. So the max is 4, so you have to create 5 values array 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is index 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these are the indexes. So what do they tell? These indexes tell us that the index 0 has a frequency 0, index 1 has a frequency 0, index value 2 has a frequency 0, index value 3 has a value 0 frequency, and index number 4 also has a frequency value 0. So this is our frequency array. Fine. So this is our frequency array. This contains the frequencies. Nice, nice one. Now, the third step again, what you have to do? Loop array elements. Elements, elements. And what you have to do? You have to do is frequency array. In the frequency array, what you have to do? You know that the index contains the set of all the elements, non-redundant elements. So frequency at the array element I plus is equals to 1. So how does it work? For example, you start with this array ARR. This is the array ARR. You get the maximum value as 4, declare the frequency value array, assign the values 0 to all the elements of the frequency array. Now, what is the frequency value? Now start iterating through the array elements. So you start from this value, which is 1. Now go to the index 1. So yeah, this is 1. Go to the index 1. Then update the value by plus 1. So this means 1 is occurring in the array one time. Then again, the next element is 2. So go to the element 2, increment the value by 1. So plus 1. Now again, you encounter 1 here. So again, come back to 1 and add a plus 1 again. Now you observe a 3 here. Go to the array element 3 in the frequency array. You get the value 1 here. Then again, you see 1 here. So again, you come here and increment the frequency by 1. Then you see the array element 4 to increment the frequency by 1 here. So now when you see what is the frequency of array element 1, so how does this fric array looks like now? It looks like this. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it looks like just add up all the increments. So 1 was incremented 3 times. So 1 has a frequency of 3. 0 is not present in the array, so it has frequency 0. 2 has a frequency of 1. 3 has a frequency of 1 and 4 has a frequency of 1. So this is how you get the frequency array. Fine, everyone? Is the logic clear? Anyone, do you have any doubts with the logic? So this is the program that implements the same thing. If you have any doubts in this program, you can ask me. So this is here I am computing the maximum array element. Then this is I am creating a new array frequency array and assigning the value 0 to it. And now I am again iterating through all the elements in the array and updating the values one by one. And then I am printing the frequency array value. Fine, everyone. If you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. Anyone, do you have any doubts? Please type in the chat box. So if the values of the array is 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, yeah, that will also work. So how will the so the important thing to note that is how will the frequency array look like. So this is index 0. So this is index 1. This is index 2. 1. So let me do this. Just one thing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 0. Let's say this is the frequency array. Fine. So this is how my frequency array looks like. So 0 index, 1 index, 2 index, 3 index, 4 index, 5 index, 6 index, 7 index, 8 index, and 9 index. And there your input is 2, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9. So 2 comes 2 times, so it will be 2 here. Then 4 comes once, so 4. Then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Everything comes 1. So each of these will have frequency 1. And the elements 0, 3, 1, and 0 will have frequency 0. Fine. Then Lakshmi, is this clear? So this is our frequency array. Great. Anyone else? Do you have any doubt? Fine. So I guess no one has any doubts. So let's move on to the next question. So let's say we are given an integer array in C and we want to separate out even and odd integers in those. So how we can do this? So let's solve this problem, problem number 10. So let's first, before, as we saw already, before solving any problem programmatically, we need to think about the logic behind it. So let's say we have some array. Let's say we have some array containing elements, one integer values, 1, 4. Let's say our array looks like this: 8, 3, 5, 9. And now this is our input array. So this is our input array. And I want to split it into two. One is even and one is odd. I want to split it into two. The first array should contain the even elements, which are 4, then 8, and the second array should contain the elements, odd events, which are 1, odd elements, which are 1, then 3, 5, and then 9. Fine. So we want to separate out this array into two different arrays. So this one is even and this one is odd. So there are a few things that we need to think of before doing this. The first one is definition. So even ka matlab, what is the meaning of even? Even means modulo 2, the value should be 0. So it should be divisible by 2. The second thing is odd. What is the definition of odd? So modulo 2, the value should be 1. So this is how you can do this. So the third thing is how to create the array in C, because you need the array size, no? So you need to decide the array size. So let's decide the size. How can we do this? Anyone, do you have any ideas? You have an array and you want to know how many even elements are there and how many odd elements are there. Array sizes. For example, in the above array, we can see there are 2 even and 4 odd entries. So how to get these numbers? Anyone? It is straightforward. So you need to think of these things before writing the program, before solving this problem. Fine. Everyone? Anyone? So these are this is so we can for after we have decided the size, then we can put in the arrays. Not put, you can fill in the array values. Fill the array values. Fine, everyone. So these are the 4 steps that we need to do, that we need to take care of. So let's start with step 1. Step 1 and step 2, we already know what is the definition. Now, how to decide the array size? So it's simple, just iterate through the array, just loop and check if it is even, number of even is true. If it is odd, number of odd is 1. Fine. So let's do this. 1 20 attach. Fine. So let's declare our array. It was of size 6 equals to 1, 2, 4, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 5, 7, something like this, I guess. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the array. So let's call an even number of even elements as an even. Assign the value 0 to it. Then an odd and assign the value 0 to it. And then find the number of even odd elements. Fine. For int I equals to 0, I is less than array size, which is 6, I plus plus. We are paying attention to the array bounds. We should not be accessing any array index value outside the bound, which is less than 0 or greater than equals to 6. Fine. So now checking if it is even. So if ARR at I modulo 2 is 0, if this is true, and even plus plus. If this is not true, then it has to be odd, which is an odd plus plus. Finally, now we have found out the number of even and odd elements. Now we can create the even array with the size uneven, and then I can create odd array with the size and odd, and then again iterate through the original array and fill in the values. So one thing to note here is we don't know the indexes at which we have to store the values in the even and odd arrays. So let's use another counter. I use a counter even, assign the value 0 to it, and use counter odd, assign the value 0 to it, and then start looping through the original array, which is size 6. Yeah. Now, does these things mean? Why do we need this counter array, counter values, counter even and counter odd? This is because although we know the size of even and odd arrays, we don't know the index value in which we have to insert the even and odd values from the original array. So this can be done by simply by using this counter even and counter odd. So this starts from the value 0. This means no values has been filled, and we have to fill in the value at the starting index, which is 0. Then from the next time, we simply need to increment this counter, incrementing the index in the even or odd, uh, uh, even or odd arrays. Fine. So if ARR at I what 2 is 0, what you have to do, you have to put in the value even equals to ARR at I, and then update the counter even, telling us that the one index 0 has been filled. Fine. Else else what you have to do, odd at counter odd equals to error at I, and then update the counter odd. Fine. Now let's print the arrays, the even array. So let us print the array containing even elements. For int I equals to 0, I is less than an even, I plus plus, printf percentage d space comma even at I, Fine. Now let's print the odd array. Backslash n array backslash n or I equals to 0 is less than an odd printf percentage d space comma odd at I and the last printf for line change. Yeah, there is some syntax error here. So let's resolve this. Now let's run it. Yeah, so there is some issue in the odd array. Ah, yeah. So now you can see the even array contains the values 2, 4, and the odd array contains the values 1, 5, 7, 9. Fine, everyone. Did you get the program? Do you have any doubts? Please ask me. So this is how you do this program. So guys, that's it for today's session. I guess I won't be able to cover other problems for this session. So this problem will be provided to you guys and you can solve them as practice. And if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the next session. Fine. Other than that, if you have any queries, please type in the chat box. Anyone, if you have any doubts, please type in the chat box. So yeah, if you have any queries, please type in the chat box. Otherwise, you can leave the session. Thank you all. So you can access the PDF file. It will be shared to you by the NPTEL team. Fine.
So, so NPTEL team will share it to you. You can check it on their website, course webpage. Yeah.